All right, welcome to What Do You Know About Slope? So this is again a little introduction to slope that we will be working on next class period. So some of this might seem familiar, some of it maybe not. So make sure you take good notes and ask questions next class. So find the slope. Here we are given an equation, y equals mx plus b. Some of you might know which part of this represents slope. Some of you might not. If you don't know, it's the m in the equation. The value connected to the x is your slope. And sometimes we think of slope as rise over run. So the up and down over the left and right. So for number one, the slope of this equation, you're just matching up the parts here, right? So the mx, the 3x, those match up. The 3 is your slope for number one. For number two, notice the terms, right? The order is a little bit different. It's y equals 11 minus 14x. That doesn't matter. Just recognizing that it's the x term is the part that represents slope, and the sign goes with it. The negative goes with the 14. So m is negative 14. Slope is negative 14. For number three, this equation looks a little different, and we haven't done a lot of this. We need to rearrange this equation to make it look like y equals mx plus b. So the first thing I would do is I would subtract. I'm going to move the x term by subtracting it to the other side. And if I do that, I end up with negative 2y equals negative 3x plus 6. And now it almost looks like y equals mx plus b, but I still need to get rid of this negative 2. And in order to do that, I need to divide by negative 2. And I'm going to divide each of those other two terms on the other side by negative 2 as well. So when I do that, I can then simplify. I'm left with the y, right? The y is now isolated. Negative 3 divided by negative 2 doesn't turn out nicely, but it does turn into a positive. So positive 3 over 2, and then 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. So now y equals 3/2 x minus 3 looks like this. And now I can determine the slope, which is 3/2. All right, so m equals 3 over 2. From a graph, this is where thinking of slope as rise over run is usually helpful. So if I start at a given point, from this point to this point, what I want to do is figure out how I move. And how I move relates to the rise and the run. So I like to start by going up or down first. So in this case, I need to go down 1, 2. So that was down 2. And then I need to run. That was 4, positive 4. So the up and down is the rise. The left and right is the run. So that is currently negative 2 over 4, which then simplifies to negative 1/2. Number 5, if I start here to get to there, so starting from the left side to the right side, I'm going to start with going up or down first. So I need to go up in this case, 1, 2, 3, and then run 1, 2. So that was up 3 and to the right 2. So my rise is 3, my run is 2. That's 3 over 2 is my slope. Now, calculating slope from 2 points. This is where we have to make sure we know how to do this. We have to be able to calculate slope from 2 points or from a table. So you will get more practice with this, but make sure you really work at understanding how to do this. So in this case, for slope, when we calculate slope from 2 points, we use yet another kind of version of slope. And that is a little formula. And it says to take, notice it's subtracting, right? You're subtracting the y values on top, and you're subtracting the x values on bottom. The y values are the rise, right? The y values represent the up and down. The x values represent the left and right. Think about on an ordered plane, on a coordinate plane. The y-axis goes up and down. The x-axis goes left and right. Okay, so y's are up and down. Rise, x's are left and right, or run. So to start, this is a formula. So I need to identify, okay, what is y2, y1, x2, x1? if I go to my ordered pairs, remember, ordered pairs are made up of x's and y's. So just to tell them apart, that's where the little 1s and 2s come from. And so when I plug in, or when I label those points, x1, y1, x2, y2, that just helps me consistently plug things into the formula correctly. So in that formula, I'm taking y2, which is -5, and I'm subtracting y1. So make sure you start with the y values on top, and on the bottom, the x values. So on the bottom, we have 4 minus 9. So notice I started, or it's subtracting. We're subtracting those two things. So -5 minus 0 is -5. 4 minus 9 is -5. And then simplify that to just 1. For the next one, again, label, right? Labeling x1, y1, x2, y2. So once you have everything labeled, then it's just a matter of plugging those things into the formula. So y2 is -2. y1 is 5. So on the top, I have -2 minus 5. On the bottom, I have 7 minus 7. So I get -7 over 0. And be careful, do not type that into your calculator unless you want the universe to implode on itself. -7 divided by 0, we know, is undefined. So you don't need to type it in. If the 0 is on the bottom, it's undefined. Okay, can't do it. For number 8, it's a table of values, but it's actually very similar to what we just did on 6 and 7. In a table of values, you have a bunch of x and y ordered pairs. Right? These are all just represent x and y ordered pairs. So we could use any of those to do this, but I'm going to use those first two. So I have x1, y1, x2, y2. And once I've labeled them, then it's just a matter of plugging them into my formula. Here's where things often get tricky. Here's where the mistakes are made. Okay? Don't make this mistake. When I plug this into the formula, first of all, I notice I'm subtracting, right? So y2 minus y1. So y2 minus y1. Notice how when I wrote this down, I still have a subtraction sign there for now. I'm subtracting a negative. So here's where parentheses can be helpful to help you keep track of subtracting a negative. On the bottom, I'm also subtracting a negative. Okay, so that double sign has to be there to begin with. But now, when I simplify this, -4 minus -10, when I subtract a negative, ends up adding the opposite. So those both turn to adding the opposite. And now I can simplify and get 6 over 4, which simplifies and reduces to 3 over 2. So it doesn't matter how much of this you remembered, make sure you get your questions answered and practice in class. This is some of the most important stuff that if you practice it now and get better now, it will make the rest of this unit that much easier.